The Sinarquista movement in Mexico is one that I have heard very little about, but have a great interest in. It is said that it followed the footsteps of the Cristeros, but I have also read of strange relationships with Nazis and even heard the claim that they and Archbishop Fulton Sheen were mixed up in some kind of fascist plot. Not taking these accusations at face value, perhaps Mr. Coulombe could give us a brief history of the movement.
You know, brief isn't what I do. But in a nutshell, the Sinarquistas were formed by a group of former Cristeros and their friends. The Sinarquista is meant, it's kind of an odd word, but you know what anarchist means?
No.
Without order.
Without order, okay.
Sinarquista is with order.
Ah.
So they set them up as the opposite of anarchists. They set themselves up. And these were people who, in the light of Mexican history, believed several things. One, that Mexican history had gone terribly wrong, and that that Mexico had taken several terrible wrong turns. Independence from Spain to begin with, overthrowing the first emperor, Iturbide, overthrowing the second emperor, Maximilian, and bloodily suppressing the Cristeros. They wanted to see a new Mexico, a Catholic Mexico, completely in tune with her Spanish heritage as well as her Indian. They wanted corporatism and all that, the guilds and all this sort of thing. And they regarded the United States as the particular enemy of Mexico.
Ooh.
Well, now wait. 3/4 of Mexican territory is now the United States. The United States, starting in the 1820s with Joel Poinsett, backed every single anti-clerical government and movement in Mexico against the Catholics and conservatives.
Okay. Well, that'll do it then.
Yeah, that'll do it. So, I mean, this is something, ladies and gentlemen, remember what I said back earlier, we're great because we're good? If you want to keep that view, and I'm all for you doing it, believe me, self-delusion is the key to positive thinking, and I stand for it. But, if you want to keep that point of view, ignore everything we've ever done overseas. That isn't to say we haven't done some good things overseas, because we have. We've done a lot of horrible things, especially in Latin America, and especially against the faith. So if you want to keep the delusion going that we're perfect, don't you be studying nothing in those areas. Anyway, I digress. Suffice to say that the Sinarquistas, as a result, also, strangely, wanted to see the return of those parts of the United States that had been taken from Mexico to Mexico. That's a weird wish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, another thing that's very hard for us as Americans to understand is that very often foreigners love their country as much as we love ours.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I know it's a weird thing.
Huh.
I remember once hearing on the radio this one fellow going on when Vicente Fox was president of Mexico. He says, Vicente Fox doesn't give a damn about this country. All he cares about is Mexico. And I thought, who's paying his salary again? Who's he responsible to again? And don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that the American leadership should not look after American interests. What I'm saying is we should not be surprised that foreign leaders and foreign nationals tend to look after the interests of their countries just as we should do for ours. And it's really stupid getting upset about them because they do. I mean, similarly, when President Johnson demanded that de Gaulle give him the keys to the French nuclear arsenal.
Wow.
De Gaulle said, well, let me ask you, Mr. Johnson, would you be willing to sacrifice New York for Paris? And Johnson quite rightly said no. To which de Gaulle quite rightly said, and that's why I'm not giving you control of our nuclear arsenal. And then Johnson blackmailed him and said, if you don't, you have to get out of NATO. And de Gaulle said, okay, bye-bye.
Wow.
A little bit of history that I can remember. That's how old I am. So, as I was saying, where this gets interesting, however, is that, as you'll have noticed, there are a lot of Mexican Americans in the Southwest. And during the 1920s and into the 30s, the 30s more, into the 40s, I should say, 30s and 40s, Sinarquismo spread amongst a lot of them. Now, who was the major enemy of the United States other than the communists in the 30s and 40s?
Anarchists? I don't know.
The Germans.
The Germans. Oh, 30s and 40s. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, as a result, not just the Sinarquistas, but conservatives all over Latin America, all of whom felt done in by these United States, tended to look very favorably on both Germany and Italy, especially after their intervention in the Spanish Civil War. Simply for the reason that A, remember they didn't know them, especially the Nazis, the way we know them.
Mm.
And number two, Germany was a long ways away, and was seemingly a creditable counter to the United States, at whose hands they had suffered. I mean, again, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most invidious things you can ever do is accept the maxim, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's not always true. It is, unfortunately, speaking historically now, an easy way out that all too often ends up in disaster for everyone concerned. The enemy of your enemy is often just as bad as your enemy. But that's a very hard lesson for people. So, where this all comes down to is that way back in 1943 or 4, something like that, we had riots in LA. Yes, the big nowhere, having successfully staved off the attack in 1941, or 42 rather, early 42, by the aliens, the Battle of Los Angeles, where depending on who you talk to, either nothing happened or Japanese Air Force planes threatened us, or maybe it was space aliens. The Battle of Los Angeles. LA stood all by herself against the combined might of the Romulan or whatever alien fleet and held it off.
Where are you getting this from?
It's history, the Battle of Los Angeles. Look it up.
It's history.
No, I'm not kidding. This does give it parenthetically, ladies and gentlemen. The Battle of Los Angeles took place in 1942, early 1942. There's a reenactment every year at Fort MacArthur. The Civil Defense detected, as they thought, aircraft over Los Angeles. And we do have photographs. There were lights in the sky. And so, they ordered a blackout of the city. This was a Saturday night.
Wow.
So imagine, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, all the traffic lights, all the street lights, everything off. Accidents everywhere.
Wow.
Then, the anti-aircraft guns opened up.
Really?
Yep. But you know the problem with firing when there's nothing there?
Yeah, what?
Well, the rounds that go up, they come down too.
Oh.
And go boom. So this added to the general confusion. And then the rioting started, the looting rather started.
Who makes that call?
It was civil defense.
Civil defense? What is that?
It is the organization of the United States Armed Forces that looks after
Wow.
internal defense here. And this, now in the morning, when the dawn rose over the city, and
Were people killed?
I don't know that it was killed. A lot of people were wounded, though, hurt. And a lot of shop windows were smashed by looters.
I would imagine.
And there were car accidents all over the place.
What a mess.
It was a huge mess. And to this day, civil defense insists that there were aircraft of some sort over Los Angeles that night. And it has achieved a role in UFO mythology. So, depending on how you want to take it, there are three possibilities. Either nothing happened at all, and it was some sort of weird mistake on the part of the civil defense, which can't be true.
Of course.
Or the Japanese planes came in over Los Angeles, but didn't bother firing at anything and left as quickly as they came, and for places unknown. Or, my personal favorite, it was in fact a UFO fleet. And the city of Los Angeles, through its unparalleled bravery, saved the world that night.
Well, we know it can't be number one, that they made a mistake.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it can't be number two, because where are the ships?
Or the land bases.
So that just leaves number three.
Exactly. Exactly. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you know how things really work. So, LA, having saved the entire planet from alien invasion, still was riven with internal problems. And one of them were the service folk on leave and the Mexican Americans. I won't go into all the details, but the result were the famous Zoot Suit riots.
That's a song.
Yes, but it's taken from a historic event.
Wow.
And the Zoot Suit riots convulsed the city for a few days, pitting Mexican Americans against off-duty servicemen. Some of these Mexican Americans were Sinarquistas, and some of them, precisely to annoy, had Nazi symbols.
Uh-oh.
And that is the root of the question. But were they in league with the Germans? Did they read Mein Kampf? I don't think so. Did they enjoy annoying off-duty servicemen? Yeah.
How did Archbishop Fulton Sheen get thrown into this rumor? That's a stretch.
Let me tell you something. While we're on the topic of UFOs,
Yeah.
there was a gentleman called Charles Berlitz who wrote a series of books on the UFO at Roswell, where, by the way, I went to college.
Of course.
I did.
Yeah, I know.
But he claimed in the day after Roswell that James Francis Cardinal McIntyre, the Archbishop of LA, had been driven out to view the wreckage at March Air Force Base.
Okay.
Now, a couple of little problems with that. One of them is that we still have in the Archdiocesan archives his appointment calendar, an appointment book for that week. It was Holy Week. He wasn't going anywhere.
Well, that's the perfect alibi.
Yep. Well, that's true. You've got the right kind of mind. And let's point something else out. He was my confessor when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So, you see this, ladies and gentlemen? Cardinal McIntyre, having witnessed the UFO at March Air Force Base and been brought into the conspiracy, was my confessor for 4 years of high school. And when that time was over, I went to college in Roswell.
Wow.
Coincidence?
No.
I think not.
I think not.
No. I hope you're staying on this ride with us, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I was about to say we've gone very far afield, but considering that we started out with the Golden Dawn defending President Trump, I think it's been a pretty coherent
Of course.
track so far.
I think so too.
We're really going off into Neverland, aren't we? Peter Pan and Captain Hook are showing up momentarily. All right, what else we got?